Hi, welcome to the Peace and Love podcast. This is your host, Siva. I'm really excited for this episode today. I just got back from my travels. I went to go to the Levels of Energy course hosted by Fred Dodson, and I'm really excited to share what exactly happened at this course, some of the exercises that we did, and how this can help you, because this completely transformed me in a way I was not expecting. I didn't really have a goal when I went, besides the fact that Fred said this will have an uptick in consciousness permanently. And so I was like, great, I'm in agreement with that. I would love to experience having higher consciousness. So that was the only thing I really was focused on, and meeting amazing people, of course. But I got a lot more than I bargained for. So stick around, because there are some amazing life-changing exercises that Frederick Dodson has taught us. So first I'm going to go into what is Levels of Energy. People would ask me before I left, oh, what are you going to Florida for? What's the seminar about? Every time I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Because it's a little far out there, if you're not used to this. But the course was based off of Frederick Dodson's amazing book called Levels of Energy, and it's a levels of consciousness scale. Well, what is that? Well, think about it as a scale of emotional states. If you really, really wanted to simplify it, stupid simple, there's two sides you can come from: fear and love. And everything in between is kind of what this scale is about, and all the little nuances of each distinct state of being. So it's important to know this because it can help you in every aspect. When I read Levels of Energy, it changed my perspective on everything. Not only did it help me in my personal everyday life, but it helped me at my job. When you start seeing things as spectral consciousness and not so linear, black and white, it really opens you up to experiencing life in a more fun and conscious way, because now with the understanding of the levels, I can discern between them, and I can also choose where I want to be on that. Reality creations, aka living the life that you desire, becomes much simpler because things are no longer good or bad. They just are, but you know what fits into what reality, and you have the understanding of what you need to do in order to align or stay away from certain realities. So bottom line, knowing the levels of energy, the levels of consciousness, which you can Google levels of consciousness. This is not unique to Fred Dodson, but it makes you so much more discerning in every aspect, in your personal life, in your relationships, in your business. It's worth it to take the time to really get to know each level on a personal basis and know what each consciousness state is about, because they all serve a purpose. We are having this experience on Earth to experience the human range of consciousness. So even though it might seem negative to learn about the vibration of fear, it's actually quite helpful, and it's a part of being alive. It's part of being human. There are some people who are vibrating at fear, and that's okay. But for those reasons, I highly recommend that you study up on the levels of energy, the levels of consciousness somehow. And I recommend Frederick Dodson's book, The Levels of Energy. It's probably my favorite book. But you don't need to know each level of consciousness for this podcast to serve you. So I'm just going to share what I experienced and some exercises that could help you. It's actually really funny. Strange things start to happen when you get a bunch of intuitive people together. And from the moment I got there, it was just like lightning bulb right over my head. So I had a lot of strange moments of realizations. I had no real goal for this, and I really wasn't thinking about coming to this seminar to solve a problem of mine, because I didn't feel like I had a problem. I feel like life is going good. But you get a bunch of high vibe, intuitive people all together, and they will read you like a book. So I quickly realized there were major changes that I need to make ASAP. And I'm not quite ready to share about this yet, but just know big things are coming, and I've got a lot to share upcoming on this podcast, so definitely stay in touch. One of the funnier things that we did was called intuition appreciation. We would look at someone in the eyes and say, what I intuit about you is blank, and what I appreciate about you is blank. And this was a really interesting and fun exercise, especially with super intuitive people like I said, they will read you like a book. And it really let me understand that nothing is secret. Nothing is secret. We walk around with all of these secrets that we think our emotional state is private, we think that our thoughts are private. Wrong. So wrong. Everything is so very public, and all of your thoughts are knowable. So just thought you should know that as well. But anyways, we had so much fun with this exercise, and we were even doing it outside of the seminar. And after the seminar was over, I went with a friend that I had met last year, and we went to Miami. And we went to the party street. The one day that we weren't on some high vibe stuff, let's go look at the chaos. Let's go perceive a different level of consciousness. So we went to the party street in Miami. I think it's called Ocean Avenue, something like that. We ended up running into these two guys. And, it's regular night for them. They're probably in a little bit of an altered state. We were not, obviously. And we did intuition appreciation with a complete stranger. Can you imagine that? In Miami on a night out? This was really fun to do, especially with a complete stranger coming from a false belief of difference. This guy isn't anything like us. He doesn't know us. He's probably not into anything like this. One thing I've learned about being unapologetically me is more people are similar and have lots in common than you would think. Who would have guessed that this guy would be open to exchanging energies in this way? What I intuit about you, what I appreciate about you. Most of those people are there to get drunk, and that's okay, but if we're running into people, we have a lot more in common with them than maybe meets the eye. Another thing about intuition is this is pretty easy to do if you've been talking to someone for a while. If you're driving, maybe talking for 30 minutes to an hour, you already have an energetic exchange. You all are swapping more than just comments. You're looking into each other's eyes, you're in each other's energetic fields. You are swapping so much information, so much subconscious stuff that you can't even see, so much energetic stuff that you can't even see. So if you have a partner that's willing, I would highly recommend What I Intuit About You and What I Appreciate About You. It's a fun exercise. And if you don't have a partner, who knows, maybe go out on your street and meet someone who you could do this with. And just to clarify, the exercise is What I Intuit About You. So don't overcomplicate that. Yes, everyone has intuition. Even you can do this exercise about things and people and places. You just have to open your mouth and communicate something. You don't need to think about what your intuition could be, because this doesn't come from the mind, this comes from the heart. You're just a channel for some information. So it's your intuition, don't overcomplicate that. And then the appreciation is just genuinely what you appreciate about the person, what you like about them. I noticed some people were challenged by the intuition part because the mind starts thinking, I can't do this, I'm just me, I don't have some crazy intuition, I don't have these supernatural powers. But it's really more simple than we think. You just need to allow it, and it is. That's why I'm saying just open your mouth and start to talk, and the words will form themselves. And I think that's how most intuition goes. We don't really know why we're doing something, but we have a feeling and you just follow the feeling. You don't know why you had an urge to say something, but you had to say it. Intuition's not one of those things that you need to overcomplicate. Speaking of supernatural, aka supernormal, I had an experience at the seminar in one of our exercises, and I think most people would consider this experience supernatural. So I was really excited to share what happened. I was with my partner and we were doing an exercise. Now, the instructions of this exercise was to have your partner pick something, some type of noun, person, place, or thing, and then you describe that thing until you experience it, until you're feeling whatever it is, until you become it. So it started off pretty normal for me. My first assignment was to describe a palm tree, and I was feeling very tree-y. Maybe you can do this for yourself. Feel what it feels like to be a tree. Become the tree. So I was describing the tree. The palm tree, it's got little checkered things in it. The bark is really tough. It's got these long palm arms, and it's got fruit sometimes. Just describing a palm tree. And then you start to get the sensation of feeling like a palm tree. You feel that tree energy, you feel that groundedness. And this makes sense. So maybe I had done a couple more, we were going back and forth, and my partner says, describe that child. So I took a moment and I looked at the child and I connected with the child, and I don't even think I described the child, but I, in an instant, was looking through the child's eyes. I had actually become the child. I was in the child's body. I was looking through the child's eyes. I looked at the beach, and at first this was so funny. I was literally experiencing his life. He was enlightened, and I was laughing because I was him. And I went from laughing hysterically to bawling because the ocean that that child sees is not the ocean that I see. He saw a completely different version of reality than me, completely. So to set the scene a little bit, it's Memorial Day weekend. There's people that are my age, my peers, they're playing beer pong on this beach, and I'm walking around literally bawling because I just experienced being a 4-year-old for maybe 5 seconds. And it's hard to communicate exactly what I mean by experienced 4 years old, but I really did experience 4 years old, or however old this child was. I experienced his life for a second, and I became him. This child was like on a different vibration than I am. This child was enlightened, if I don't say so myself, you know? It was a completely different consciousness. But I really understood becoming something. You know, people say, oh, become one with it. What does that even mean? No, but you really can move your consciousness around. If we really aren't the body, if we really are the soul, you can move your consciousness around to anything. And that doesn't even just include a parallel universe of self. That includes the frog, that includes the tree, that includes the ocean. You can move your consciousness around to experience whatever you would like, including the version of self who's a billionaire. Nothing is off limits to consciousness. If I could literally put my consciousness into someone else's body, what do you think the actual limitations are here? The implications of this short experience is incredible, and it weighs on me heavily to this day. So after we completed this exercise, we went back inside, and I went back to our workshop. But I wondered, what is it like to be our workshop leader, Fred Dodson? And so I was looking out through his eyes, and I was seeing the crowd through his eyes. He has a complete different perspective of the crowd because my physical body was sitting in the crowd, but he was looking at everyone's face, and he is at an elevated perspective because he's standing. You know, I was seeing that and experiencing life through his eyes. And then all of a sudden, Thomas Miller, who works with Fred Dodson, he asked me to do a favor for him. The favor was running a microphone around the room to people who had questions. So I took this on, and now I am seeing the room from a completely different perspective. I was imagining this perspective just 5 seconds prior, and now I have a complete different perspective physically on the room. I'm now standing up in front of the crowd. I'm looking at everyone's faces. I am now seeing what I just became a minute earlier. So let's break this down a little bit. If we are the soul first, if we are consciousness first, before we are the body, what's the quickest way to have the body in a situation that we want to be in, whether that is becoming the millionaire, that is the movie star, the mom, the wife, the child, whatever you're wanting to experience? First, you need to put your consciousness there. Am I suggesting it's as easy as becoming one with said reality, with said experience? Yeah, I am saying that. And it is kind of funny to say, oh, just become one with it. Because again, what does that mean? I didn't have that understanding before I had that experience. So my invitation to you is experience this. Then you will understand fully what I'm talking about. Become one with something. Put your attention on something. Describe it. I've got my journal next to me. My journal is hard. It's leather. It holds a bunch of information that I've written in it. It's brown. It's about a pound. I actually don't know if it's a pound. That seems heavy. But you get my point. After putting your attention on something, describing it, even if it was only for a minute, you're going to energetically get the sense of journal or whatever you're describing. You're going to feel the energy of journal or whatever you are wanting to describe. And once you have that experience, with an apple, you can definitely transfer that to anything that you would like to do. Or just skip that entirely and you can just describe what your dream life is. We did a similar exercise where the point was to describe something that you wouldn't mind happening. And the person I was partnered with was describing everything they didn't want. I don't want to be working a 9 to 5 job. I don't want this to happen, and I don't want to be doing this. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? While I understand where this is coming from, look at the difference between I don't want to work a 9 to 5 job versus I would love to have a job that fits my perfect needs and I can do it from anywhere in the world. I am doing my job, but it doesn't actually feel like a job. It feels like so easy and so natural to me. It feels like I'm playing all day long. And I feel like whenever I'm doing it, I feel like I'm in touch with my soul. So do you feel the difference between what I just described and I don't want to work a 9 to 5 job? I don't want to be a wage slave? You will for sure know that something is going to happen to you when you can literally feel it inside your body. For example, I was explaining to someone that I can't wait to be in a space where I pick a fresh coconut right off the tree, I open it up, and I'm getting the milk inside of it. I'm like getting the fresh coconut juice right from fresh off the tree. And I can still feel this. You can't see, but I'm smiling really hard describing this. After describing this a few times, honestly, because the things that I wouldn't mind experiencing are often on my mind, I started attracting fresh coconuts. And yes, it wasn't the exact scenario of what I described, but I can still feel the sensation of being home and by the beach and cutting open a fresh coconut. I still have that. And I had a real sense of this because I did start attracting fresh coconuts. I was biking and this guy is on the side of the road selling fresh coconuts that he had just gotten off the tree and he cut one open right there for me. And I wasn't even looking for this. It just happened to cross my path. And so when you are starting to describe things and see things so deeply, you will literally start attracting them like a magnet. People do this with their fears on accident. They'll sit there worrying for like 10 minutes, feeling all those sensations, and they're feeling it so deeply. So it's like a magnet for them. And you're like, yeah, I've tried visualizations, but it's hard to do. Okay, I understand. When you start visualizing, it might be clunky. Oftentimes when I start to visualize something I've never visualized before, it feels a little awkward and there's not much detail behind it. But keep going, because once I start getting more pictures and seeing more scenes and feeling more feelings, there's just a tipping point and I can see every little detail. I can hear every little sound, smell every smell. So the more that you sit with whatever you're visualizing, whatever you're seeing, the deeper that it will go, the more it will grow. And the more details and information that you will have, the more of these neurons are connecting from a scientific perspective. Just last night I did this. I visualized something I'd never visualized before, and it manifests instantly. When I tell you, it was on my phone when I woke up in the AM. And that was not even my intention. My intention last night was to just get a sense of completeness. I had a conversation with someone and I kept thinking about this conversation, and so obviously it was incomplete to my subconscious. The subconscious does not like incomplete. So I just simply did this procedure and ran it back the conversation and played out a few different possibilities. Very detailed though. But really I had no intention of it actually manifesting. I just wanted a sense of completeness so my brain could move on, so my attention could move on elsewhere. I'll describe the procedure, but the one thing to know is a lot of the times I do use this very effectively, but with just the intention of doing it to experience. I'm not doing it to manifest XYZ, I'm doing it to experience something in real time. I promise you don't have to wait until you have a physical $100 bill in your hand to have the sensation of holding a physical $100 bill in your hand. Why wait 10 years to be married to your perfect spouse when you could feel the exact feeling, feel it now, today? Same thing with memories, things in the past, things that you have your attention stuck on. That's what I used it for, is to find a sense of completeness, because you can put your consciousness anywhere. Future, past, parallel universe. So this is just to experience whatever you'd like to experience. It's called the Pure Method, and it's also Fred Dodson's work in his book Parallel Universes of Self. I've actually only read it up to this point because in the book he says, this exercise is all you need to know. And he was right because I really use this exercise almost nightly. It's so simple because I attach it to something that I already do, but it's also so effective. So this is how I do it. Every single night before I go to bed, I usually pick out something that I'm feeling excited about, inclined towards, something that I would like to experience. And the key is I'm just doing it to experience it. Most of the time, it does manifest and extremely fast, but I'm never doing it to manifest it. I'm doing it to experience it right now, every night. So I pick my thing out, and while I'm falling asleep, I do this method. So the first thing that you do is go to the void, the place where all things are created from. It's stepping into the void, letting go of everything physical that you have, including your body. So you're stepping into a place of nothingness. And you're not just experiencing nothingness, you are the nothingness. You are the void. You're experiencing the void because you are the void, looking at the void. So you're basically just looking in black nothingness. This is how I start usually. I'm looking at black nothingness, and then there's some type of energetic shift where I am the void and I am everything that is nothing. So now putting that in English, I sound pretty nutty, and I've never tried to put that in English before. But that's the best I can do to explain to you what is actually going on. And it's somewhat of an energetic shift, and I feel like you'll know when you're in the void. I always know when I am the void. So then when you are at a place of you've let go of your current situation, your current reality, what you currently know, then you can open up to creating something. Then you just put yourself in wherever you would like to experience. Say you would like to experience being at the beach. You're going to look through your own eyes and see the beach. You're not looking at yourself at the beach. You are looking at the beach through your own eyes. So with this example, you would see your feet in the sand and you would see your arms reaching out to the palm trees. And like I said, sometimes at first it's clunky. It feels awkward. It doesn't feel like it's right to be at the beach for whatever reason. But just stick with it for a while and you'll start to develop this movie. It takes on a life of its own, really. Then you're experiencing this scenario, and I just experience the scenario while I'm falling asleep. So I'll literally drift in and out of consciousness, and I feel like this really has something to do with why it's so effective, because it really must get in my subconscious, because I'll drift into sleep, and then I'll be awake, experiencing more, and drifting off, and then at some point I just fall asleep. Also, now that I'm thinking about it, this could be good if you have a phone thing. I know a lot of people are having challenges going to bed without having the phone, without being on TikTok, without watching a movie, but this is like creating your own movie before bed. So if this is you and you got a little bit of a phone thing going on, maybe try this instead. Anyhow, I use this method so much, and it's probably my favorite thing that I do, period, because I no longer have to wait for outside circumstances to be happy. And that's why the things manifest so quickly, because I literally have no attachment to it manifesting because it is happening already. Does that make sense? I'm literally experiencing it every day, so I don't need it to actually even happen. But that's usually what creates it happening because I genuinely feel like it's already fulfilled. So, long story short, if you really want to have something manifest, this is what I use each and every time. And that basically is becoming one with something. You're stepping into it. You are becoming one with the reality of your choosing, whatever that may be. And it works because everything is energy, just like we were talking about earlier. It's consciousness before it's physical. There's a whole lot more that happened and a whole lot more that's transpiring right now. Even though it was only 3 days, this has caused so much shift in my life that it's going to affect it for a long, long time upcoming. So I'll be ready to share very soon about what all has happened. But I will say this, I am a different version of self. I have shifted timelines completely. And I've came home and I see this physically. There are new buildings here that have never been here before. There's a lot of things I've noticed that are a little different from wherever I came from. And the things that are the same, I'm experiencing them so differently. I can even see my old timeline, and I could see where I could even jump back in my old timeline if I so chose. I'm shifting to a new version of self for sure. I can tell just from my own experience that this is going to change everything that I currently know. I really hope that you experiment with becoming one with different things. Everything really is energy, and if we understand this, we can understand how we can change our lives and create the dream life that we so deserve. I promise you, I experience these things. You can too, and it's all divine. You are on your perfect timing. I believe in you. Peace and love at ya.